Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Peace and love, y'all. It's Brother Ali. The Travelers Podcast is back. We had an unannounced hiatus because it was unexpected, unanticipated, and I've kind of been having some anxiety about and just nerves about starting the podcast again because I knew that I would need to give you the update, and it's not a happy story. Honestly, the short version is that I have been through, and my family has been through, some of the most challenging times of our lives, and I just did not have the capacity to do a podcast during that time. But it's also been extremely beautiful. You know, I've been really, really busy, just touring really intensively and extensively, so much travel. I haven't been on any sort of regular schedule, so it's been really intense. And so that's what's going on. But so many people have reached out. Every single day I get messages from people. Ali, where's the podcast? Are you okay? Are you all right? Like, what's going on? And so to come back, I just wanted to give you an idea of that story. And even with how challenging and difficult it is, I also, two things. One, I understand that the challenges that I experience are nothing compared to the vast majority of people that live on this planet. And, you know, there are people that their suffering is well known, and there are people that their suffering is not known. But there are people suffering some very, very real challenges. And so what I'm about to describe is nothing compared to what they're going through. But all of us have our reality, and when our reality is challenged and shattered and broken, it's a thing for us, you know. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But so first I want to say we're okay. Second, I want to say that our challenges are nothing compared to probably you. Like the things you go through, what I'm about to describe, it might sound like the easiest day of your life. It's like, man, I would kill to have a life like that. I know that. Another reality is that I am so profoundly content with my life, and I'm so profoundly grateful. You know, my family, I just was invited to be part of this retreat in London, and our family had been apart for so long that I said, like, okay, is it okay if instead of paying me, if you guys fly my family out? And so my family was together in London at this nature retreat. It was so beautiful, really, really dope. And my wife twisted her ankle while we were on the retreat. And so we get back to Istanbul, and she says, I'm going to go to the mall because most of the groceries that we buy are from street markets, or they do have a delivery service here. But it's, you know, the quality and the variety and things like that sometimes leave something to be desired. And so there is a kind of like bougie grocery store in a mall that my wife usually will go there once a week because we're Westerners and there's certain things that we like. And I'm not talking about like super extravagant things. I'm just saying, quinoa, for example. Like there's just certain things that like you can't get in the store, or lettuce that's washed and in a bag. So if you want to have like lettuce and have a salad on a regular basis, if you buy it from the street market, it's fine, but it'll probably have bugs in it, and you're going to have to wash it. It's going to take a half hour just to wash the lettuce to be able to, or the spinach to be able to make a salad. And if you go to the bougie grocery store, it's in a bag. And so, you know, for a family of 5 and all that kind of stuff, it's like when I say bougie, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about caviar and, you know, whatever. It's just some of the very basic things that we need. But so she was about to go to the mall to go to that grocery store. And I was telling her, like, nah, baby, you twisted your ankle. Don't worry about it. And then she reminded me because I forgot. She's like, hey, we haven't talked about it, Ali, but tomorrow's your birthday. And I was going to go to the grocery store, but I was also going to try to find you something for your birthday. And I thought about it for a second, and I just realized, like, I am completely content. There's nothing I want. There's not a thing that I want to buy. There's nothing in my life that I would change. And most of these headaches that I'm going to describe to you are just me trying to hold on to the life that I have. But okay, let me tell you like what it was that, just because we're close, like from being able to go on these last couple of tours, I realized how many people really listen to this podcast, and the bond that we have between us is greater than ever, and it really means a lot to me. So, if you listen to the podcast, that leading up to this, where would I even begin? I'll say that I've been on this amazing like health journey, and I lost a lot of weight and was getting strong and everything. It's been several years. And when we started the first round or the first leg of the Satisfied Soul Tour, that was with me and Ant and D1. When we started that tour and when we were on that tour, I was probably the healthiest that I've been as an adult. Leading up to it, I trained for that tour. And I was walking 15,000 steps a day. I was going to the gym 4 times a week. I was very happy eating one meal a day that was like salad and fish and some fruit, and only drinking water and 2 cups of coffee a day. Very happy living like that. And then I got a hernia. I got 2 hernias, not one, but 2 hernias. So while I was on that first leg of the tour, which was one of the most blessed and profound times of my life, it was so incredible, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I did an episode called Processing the Satisfied Soul Tour. And half of the time I'm in tears with just how grateful I was to be able to do that, especially the last night of the tour in Minneapolis. Very, very beautiful. Being with Ant, just having an amazing time. The tour crew was incredible. It was a beautiful experience. But I also was in tremendous pain, crippling pain. Like pain, almost in tears to like almost where I was like doubled over in pain. So I discovered after the tour, I've been to the doctor a few times, and they finally discovered I had an MRI, and they realized, oh, you've got 2 hernias, and one of them is really big, one on each side of my groin. Like, it's not fun. So in between all this touring, there was one time when I thought I was going to have a week-long, or maybe it was 2 weeks, break. But like, no, you're not going to have a 2-week break. You're going to go into surgery. And so I went into surgery, and that's a really very painful and unexpectedly emotional situation where you're not in control of your body, and, somebody's cutting into you. And as a man, it's like that particular area, it responds and it reacts. And there's, things that I wasn't anticipating. My doctor doesn't speak the surgeon didn't speak any English, and I don't speak enough Turkish for us to really communicate like that. So, there's a whole episode about that surgery, and there was some really funny things in the aftermath and stuff like that. But that was a big part of it. And that's a thing that, like, if that happens in somebody's year, that's major. And, living in your body, and especially with the intense awareness, the very acute awareness that I've had of my body since I started this health journey. It's not just a physical thing. Like, anybody that knows, that has really dedicated time to, like, I'm going to spend a couple years, and after a life of being unhealthy, I'm going to start living my life in a healthy way. I'm going to honor and love and live in my body with care and with intention. You become really aware of your body and the emotions around your body. You start realizing, like, well, why didn't I work out? Why did I eat the way that I did? And you start realizing, like, oh, for me, I loved all the non-physical parts about myself, and I didn't love my physical self, because it's connected not only to albinism, but also, I'm a European American person raised in Black communities. A lot of very strong feelings about racial injustice. And my body is connected to one side of that fight, and my non-physical self, my experiences and everything else are connected to the other side. So there's literally a war going on inside I'm not safe from. And so that's part of it. But then also learning that my emotional things, that a lot of times I was dealing with them by eating food and by creating another feeling inside myself and having these relationships with, with my body. So on that thing, you become acutely aware of the way that you feel and also the emotions tied to it. So going through that surgery and that illness and then that surgery, like having all that pain and then going into a surgery, it felt like it's directly related to my attempt to heal. It's kind of like my healing is harming me, because I went too hard and I tried to take it too fast, even though I did spread it out over a couple years. But just the aftermath of that physically and emotionally was a big deal. So then my daughter and I went to America, and, I'm still healing from the surgery, still recovering from the surgery. And we came back to Istanbul and got deported. And there's an episode about that, deported and detained. That was a legitimately traumatic experience. The way that trauma has been explained to me is that, we can talk about metaphysically and in the larger reality, like, is there such thing as safety? And, shouldn't we live knowing that anything can happen at any time and everything is, and, religiously and spiritually, like, I believe that everything in this realm is decaying, deteriorating, it's dying, it's fleeting, it's running away from us. I know that. I know it very deeply. However, there's a customary relationship that we have to have with reality in order to move forward and in order to live life. And so we go through life with this assumption that certain things are safe and that certain things are possible, and especially related to safety. It's a traumatic thing if somebody's family violates them because, in a family, I'm supposed to be safe with my family. That's something that I'm supposed to be able to rely on. And then somebody in the family violates you. It's like that is a traumatic experience because it shatters my perception of safety in general. Is anything safe? Am I ever, And so for this to happen specifically with my daughter was very, very challenging. And it was traumatic with a T. If you listen to that episode, you'll hear it. But, basically we have this immigration situation and we did everything we're supposed to do. The system is backed up and they changed rules without announcing it. So people say, well, why don't you just do it legally? We are doing it legally. We're doing everything we're supposed to do. It's the reality that, systems are imperfect, they're backed up, and there are some people that just don't want, there are some people that make decisions that are supposed to be aiding and facilitating that situation that don't want immigrants. And so they're actively trying to block you. And there are a lot of, seeing these ICE raids, and that's what I mean. It's like, I'm not going through what the ICE raid people are going through. But there is a similarity there. I mean, they came in the room and told me that my 16-year-old daughter was being deported to Amsterdam by herself, and that her flight left in a half hour and 24 hours in a full day later, and that she was to spend that 24 hours in a corridor with a bunch of other people that were being deported, with 2 plastic chairs, no bench, no place to lay down. There's only a bathroom. It's a concrete floor. No place to charge her phone. There's no food. There's no restaurants. There's no grocery store, nothing like that. She also is a young lady and she needed products for being a young lady, and there wasn't that. So it's like, and then at the end of that 24 hours, they're going to put her on an airplane and send her to Amsterdam, where we're not citizens, we don't have friends, we don't have family, we don't know anybody, and she's supposed to do all that by herself. And they said, you, Mr. Ali, are going into Turkey because your travel situation is okay, you're going in. She's being deported. I had to beg them to deport me along with my daughter. And they're yelling, they're not listening, they don't understand, they're arrogant, they don't get it, but they have all the power and I have none. I do not have the power to keep my daughter safe in that situation. She's always felt safe with me, and there's nothing I can do. I had to beg them to be deported with her. I was supposed to come home for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of Ramadan, which means a lot to us, and then also the Eid holiday, which also means a lot to us. And we instead spent that time, a week in Amsterdam, a week in Chicago, just trying to figure out how to get home. We finally get home, and we had exactly 2 days. I had 2 days at home instead of 2 weeks. And then I'm supposed to turn around and go back on tour. Now, first of all, I'm going back to the airport where that happened. I'm going back to the airport where my daughter was taken from me. I'm going back to the airport where arbitrarily they changed rules, and completely unexpectedly, I was treated like a criminal that could be detained, that could be sent away, that could be, deported to a place that was completely unexpected, while I'm recovering and healing from a surgery. And so I'm starting this tour. This was the second leg of the Satisfied Soul tour with DJ Abilities. It was a complete joy and pleasure, honor, just being with Abilities. A big part of why I got through this is because of how beautiful he is and he was to me during that time. But another aspect of that tour is that it was not profitable. I knew that those weren't my biggest markets. We're going into places where we used to do great, but in general, underground rap shows don't do that well there anymore. So even Atmosphere, which is the biggest in our circle, their crowds are down, to half or third of what they used to be. And mine are down more than that. So, it's like I'm going into this situation where I normally would make very little for the amount of time and work. It is a lot of work being on tour. It's a lot of physical strain. It's a lot of mental and emotional strain just being on tour. Just being on tour in and of itself is very challenging. But then with all this stuff going on at home, and I went into this tour knowing I can scale the budget, but scaling the budget means the places where you save money are on people's comfort. So some of the major line items are like, we could share hotel rooms or get cheaper hotel rooms or both. Instead of hiring a seasoned tour manager to drive and do everything like that, you can get like an intern type of person. There are people that don't have a whole lot of experience, but maybe they're also musicians, and if they're going to work a job, they'd rather work a job in the music industry, but they're only qualified for entry level. So like you can save money by hiring somebody like that. I've managed my own tours before. I've handled my own business, especially in the last 4 years. I handle my own business. I'm actually really good at tour managing. I'm great at booking hotels, great at booking travel. I'm really very good at all this stuff, mashallah, because I've been doing it for over 20 years. And it's just something that I pay attention to. And I'm very, very good at it. But visually, I can't drive the van. There's certain logistical things that I can't do because I'm legally blind. And so I said, you know what? Okay, DJ Ability is coming on this tour. None of us are making what we want to make. Instead of me making a little bit of money, I'm going to decide to break even on this tour if it all goes well. And I'm going to invest in each of these adult grown men get their own hotel rooms, and we're going to have a decent hotel budget so that no matter how rough the tour gets, we know that we're all going back to some privacy, which, there's some dignity in privacy. And when you're around people 24/7 and you're on, and especially, it can be very challenging to not have any privacy and alone time. And so I said, okay, everyone gets their own hotel rooms. I'm the one paying for that. No one else pays for that. There's no company. The other artists don't chip in on that. When it's a Brother Ali tour, Brother Ali is the business paying for all of the expenses. So I went into it saying, all right, I'm going to cover all these expenses for everybody. Also, another thing that I chose to do was to hire a seasoned tour manager, driver, merchandise person, but that is at a premium. I went into it knowing this person is going to be paid more than anybody else on the tour, including me. I'm the only one that's not guaranteed to make a single dollar on this tour, and I probably won't. I went into it knowing that I probably wouldn't make anything. Everybody else has guarantees. I don't have guarantees. I get whatever is left over. And one of the ways to ensure that there's money left over is to scale the budget, but I'm not doing those things. I don't want, like, I am a grown man that made a decision to do this tour, even though I knew it wouldn't be profitable. What's in it for me is that I'm so grateful that people listen to me and care about what I'm doing, that like if they want to be in a room with me, I want to be in a room with them, even if there's not enough of them for me to really make money doing it. That's how I feel, especially with the music that I just made. These 2 albums, Love and Service and Satisfied Soul, like this music means a lot to me. And I don't have big platforms advertising and marketing them. They're not being distributed. It's like anybody that's checking for me and is rocking with me at this level of my journey, I want to be there to look them in the eye and say thank you. And say thank you for allowing me to continue doing what I love to do for a living. Like, this is my calling, but it's happening because you support it. Thank you. I love you. And here, let's make another memory together. That's why I'm there. But everybody else on the tour, that wasn't their decision. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to ask these people to sacrifice because I made this kind of decision. So like, they're getting hotel rooms. We're going to hire an expensive tour manager. He's going to make more than anybody else on the tour. He's making more than the people on stage. But it's worth it if we have somebody looking out for us, making life easy for us, so that we only have to focus on doing our thing on stage, getting and giving energy and love from the audience, having a good camaraderie on the tour. Like, this is about the energy, so let's make it about that. Let's do everything we can to make sure the intention and the energy good. So I made those decisions going in. So there were a few things along the way, though, that I knew would be opportunities to make some money. One of them was a college show. Now, touring artists in general, when you do your headlining tour show in a club, there's some money to be made there, but it's not a whole lot because, like I said, the artist covers all the expenses. So you may or may not make money like that. You're probably not going to make a whole lot, but you go out there and do that, and then the time that we cash in as independent artists are the times that we're actually, the only times we're associated with bigger organizations or institutions or corporations is when we do a college, because a college got a big budget, or when we do a festival, because a festival got corporate sponsors. So those are the only times. Other than that, it's just whatever fans come out and buy tickets. The promoters know, they make projections for that, and then they make an offer to us based on what those projected numbers are going to be. But that's called a hard ticket, where it's like you make what you sell, not a dollar more. A soft ticket is something like a college, where like the college is already happening. So I got booked, for example, to do the spring concert at Virginia Tech. And it was one of the things on the tour where like, okay, that thing is going to bring in some money. Really grateful that that's there. They didn't offer what we used to pay. Now, I used to do a bunch of festivals in colleges, even after the pandemic, even after my former record label, Rhymesayers, were not my managers anymore and we're self-managed. I still got a really good amount, a good healthy influx of college and festival shows that are a nice healthy influx of cash. And on a tour like that, it's like, okay, this is exactly what I need. Ever since October 7th, nothing. Those things don't exist for me anymore. Promoters will still book me for my private, like Brother Ali, like headlining concerts in a club, but I'm not getting added to college stuff or festivals because I insist on talking about the Palestinians. And I've always done that, and I will always do it. But it means that a huge part of my business is just cut off. So we got booked for a show at Virginia Tech. They reached out. I was like, wow, okay. Before I left for the tour, in those couple days that I was about to turn around and go back to the airport, I got the word that they had uninvited us. And that the reason is because the Muslim foreign-born students that were organizing my concert, when I get on stage, I'm going to do Uncle Sam Goddamn. It's one of my biggest songs. And during that song, I redo some of the words to talk about excuse me, whatever is relevant politically in this moment as it relates to the message of that song. And so since October 7th, I've been saying, you know what it is if you listen to Ali, it's free Palestine from the river to the sea. The whole crowd goes crazy. People are, especially early on, like people were so surprised and excited and invigorated to actually hear that be said in public. And the fact to like the feeling of being with a group of people that see this thing for what it is, see this apartheid and genocide for what it is. And so people go crazy. So it's a powerful moment. But if that thing got recorded, that moment, and it always does, every single night somebody posts that. Sometimes I repost it on my story, but every single night somebody is posting that. If that gets recorded and it just gets seen out of context, it looks like a pro-Palestine rally. It looks like an anti-Zionist rally. And because of where the administration is at, the mostly foreign-born students that are organizing my events, usually these are going to be like Muslim students that are thinking like, yeah, okay, we're going to have this big, beautiful thing where this guy who's Muslim, this American Muslim guy is going to come in and everybody's going to be chanting love and singing this beautiful music, and it's going to be such an emotional experience. But also this guy's Muslim, and also he's going to say something about the colonization, the apartheid, the genocide that's happening in our homelands. So these are a lot of times Muslim students that are bringing me to campus. And it was just made clear to me like, yo, these people could be detained, deported. They could be just disappeared from the street. They could be walking down the street and somebody just jump out and grab them legally. And we don't know what happens to them. They could just be gone. So I'm leaving for this tour and I go to the airport and it just feels so physically wrong to leave my family and then to return to the airport. I'm just like, man, I have not had a chance to process this. When trauma comes along and shatters our concept of safety, that's the way trauma was explained to me. I'm re-recording this. I started over. So forgive me if I said this already. I can't remember, but trauma was explained to me as like, I'm supposed to be safe in certain situations, and it turns out I'm not. Something comes to rupture my idea of safety. It's deeply rattling. It's deeply upsetting to a person. And to be in a situation like that with my daughter was completely traumatic. It was a real trauma. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not overusing the word. That was a real trauma that we suffered. And I knew that I hadn't processed it yet. And so like, I'm heading out on this tour. I'm not going to make money. So it's like, how do I say that this is for my family? I'm doing this to see my fans and to keep my commitments. But the one thing that I was supposed to be an infusion of cash is not happening now. So, there's always a chance, like, if the meet and greet does really well, if the merch does really well, that part is profit. But that's not guaranteed, And these are shows where, like, already the attendance was going to be low. So meet and greet and merch that, aren't going to be very promising. So I get in the cab and I leave and I go back to the airport. I've been home for 2 days. It's not even enough time to make up for my jet lag. I'm literally in tears. One of the things that drives me, y'all, is that I almost always have a sense of what I believe is the right thing for me to do. And I'm happy to do it. And make whatever sacrifices are involved. It's one of the ways that life makes sense to me. Is that I have a sense of like, this is what's right for me to do. And I'll do it. This was the one of the most heartbreaking things about this time is I genuinely could not decide, is this the right thing to do? Should I cancel this tour and be with my family? Like my daughter and I just got deported. We just got home 2 days ago. I was away for Ramadan. I've been away from my family. My family was expecting me to come home. When I started touring, Chuck D told me, always let your family know when you're leaving and when you're coming home, and by God, you do your best to keep that. Because if you just come and go as you please, your family just feels like you're out doing your thing and you don't really care about them. And it can feel like your absence is a sign of how little you actually consider them or care about them, and that they're not really necessary to your life. You're out there living your real life. Whereas what Chuck told me in the beginning, and I've held to this, is if you tell them when you're going and you have a sense of accountability to them, excuse me, it lets them know that like this is for us and y'all are part of this and I'm doing this for us. And part of the way that I signal that and make that really real is that I'm accountable to you about when I come and when I go. And so for my family, for my little daughters, for my wife to expect for me and my daughter to come home, and we don't come home for 2 weeks, and then and so they're trying to figure out how to do their daily routine and all of that. And then we come home for 2 days, I turn around and leave again. I just really couldn't tell, am I doing the right thing? Because on the one hand, it's like, I want to keep my commitments. I committed to abilities. I committed to JB. I committed to the tour manager. I committed to the listeners. I committed to the promoters. I committed to my booking agent. A lot of people have put in a lot of time, energy, and they're depending and expecting this tour to happen. And I'm the only one that can make it that. Like that, this tour says Brother Ali on it. And I have to be there, and I've got to be on. I've got to be happy. I've got to be ready to kill it. I've got to be ready to pour energy and positivity into the audience so that they get what they came here for, to keep my commitments, to honor my commitments. Also, this is a time in my career where it's getting more and more challenging. And the reason that even with all the other things that are going on, I can still book a tour of Brother Ali gigs because people know for a private Brother Ali concert, it's not a risk. Ali is going to show up. He's not going to be late. He's not going to cancel last minute. He's going to show up. He's going to put on a great performance. He's going to be on time. His people are going to be professional. The fans are going to be agreeable and happy, and it's just going to be a win-win. It is not a gamble to do a Brother Ali concert, a private Brother Ali concert. And that's part of why people book us so regularly over and over and over again. So I'm like, man, if I cancel this, they don't really go all into detail about what just happened to him. And he's, just came out of surgery and, they deported his daughter and it's like all this stuff. They don't go into that. All they know is Brother Ali was supposed to be here. Everybody was excited and then he canceled. So it's like, man, should I do that? But then on the other hand, I've just gone through this trauma together with my family that like we don't know now. That's the thing about like the false universal of when a trauma comes along and shatters your customary conception of reality and safety. It's like nothing is ever safe. So it's like, man, are they going to come in the middle of the night and grab us and throw us out? Are they going to do an ICE detention situation with us? It's like they've just shown you that like you can do everything right, and at the airport they can just threaten whatever. So leaving, like one of the most heartbreaking things is I did not know, is this right or wrong? Am I doing the right thing? But we head out. We get on the tour, and like I said, I paid extra money for a well-seasoned, trained tour manager. And from the very beginning, it was not a good match. I don't name names, please don't go try to figure out who I'm talking about. If you think you figure that person out, you probably got it wrong. Please don't go try to figure out who I'm talking about, because I'm here to share my experience, not to cancel somebody, even though what I'm saying is true from my perspective. I'm not here to cancel anybody. But I do talk about my experiences. So this guy, from the very beginning, was running this tour as though it was his tour. Our energies and our intentions and like what we're on tour for do not match off top. This guy is usually tours with like really hardcore, like, bands. I want to say metal, but I don't really know the difference. But it's very aggressive, loud rock music. There's a lot of drugs. He did tell guys in our crew that he also uses drugs. And I just found it to be the most very intense, combative, argumentative, entitlement-driven, white man intense energy. When I try to speak to him about things, he wasn't listening to me. It's like I'm paying for this whole tour, and I'm paying you. And I'm covering all your expenses, and I gave him everything he asked for. And like, I can't get a word in edgewise. In order for me to be heard on my own tour, I would have had to raise my voice and argue with this guy. And I could just feel, with everything that's going on in my life, I got some like warrior energy going on inside me, and I don't need to do that. That is not a good idea. So for the most part, I'm like, okay, you know, it seems like this guy usually tours with people. There are artists that, you know, party and rage, and like, they're like babies, basically. They're like children. You have to do everything for them. And it seems like maybe that's what he's used to. I don't know if he was used to working with artists that run their own label, that run their own tours, that run their own business, that can book all their own stuff. It's like, I don't actually need you to be here, but I want you to be, and I'm hiring you and I'm paying you, and you should be carrying things out generally the way that I want them to be. Because this is my tour. I'm covering everything. I'm paying for everything. I should be happy here. I should be comfortable here. My people that I invited on tour should be happy and comfortable here. And from the very beginning, it was that, just big things all the way down. But I felt like I was being bullied on my own tour. I felt like I was in trouble, like I was supposed to feel like I was in trouble with this tour manager, that he was the boss of the tour. It was almost like I was on his tour. And it's like, man, if I step into my warrior kind of energy and spirit with this guy, this tour is over. It's not happening. I might as well have stayed home, because, the way he was responding, the way he was talking over me, the way as pushy and like, as like alpha as he was trying to be, it wouldn't have went well. The tour probably would have ended. And so I just decided to rock with it. During the tour, I get a call in the middle of the night. So many calls that it finally woke me up, from my wife. Now, to go back a little bit, Turkey, where I live, is in the middle of a financial crisis. Extreme inflation, prices are going up. At the same time, when that started, a bunch of foreigners started moving in and driving up the market value in rent. So rent is skyrocketing. People's money is plummeting. Turkey is in a full-on financial crisis. People do not behave like themselves when they're in crisis. So my landlord was more than doubling my rent every year, year after year, raising it 120%, 112%, 100 whatever, doubling it, and threatening me that, like, if you don't pay this, you have to move out. And they were bringing it up to just barely below market value. So it's like, if you move out, you're uprooting your family. You're going to go through the headache of moving, and you're only going to be paying a little bit less than what I'm asking for something comparable. So they were doing it in a wise way if you want to get over on somebody. But, I showed all this to my agent that helps me with our residency, and he said, you are overpaying by leaps and bounds. Like, you are like, it is wild how much more you're paying for your apartment than what you're supposed to. Basically explained to me that once you rent an apartment in Turkey, there is a bill of rights for renters, and you can be doing that for 10 years. You can rent it for 10 years, barring some sort of super out of the ordinary situation. Each year, they're only supposed to raise the rent incrementally. And so the government sets what that limit is. You're allowed to raise it 20% this year. You're allowed to raise it 30% this year. At the 5-year mark, halfway through, you renegotiate to bring it up to market value. But year 2, 3, 4, you're supposed to be paying just a small incremental raise. And they were more than doubling it each year. And so I said to them, this agent that I have wants me to take you guys to court. He's telling me if I pay, just this nominal kind of like lawyer fee, you guys will have to pay out tens of thousands of US dollars, which them just being a couple, like they're not a big company, that might have bankrupted them. I don't know. It might have put them out of business. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. But I just said, look, I'm already paying way more than I'm supposed to. I did not know my rights. you took advantage of the fact that I didn't know my rights. The first year they doubled it. They said, we've got kids in school and the lira is plummeting, and they gave me a sob story. And they said, we promise we won't do this next year. And then they turned around and did it the next year. This is another situation where we've been great tenants to them, like really and truly. Done everything that we were supposed to do. So we had this meeting and I said, look, I've already overpaid this much. I'm already paying more than what I'm supposed to pay. This year they were trying to raise it the legal limit. And I said, yes, but you've already illegally raised it year after year and you've threatened to kick me out, which now I know you're not allowed to do. So if we were to go to court, the court would probably award me damages and lower the rent. I said, let's not do that. Let's just say the past is in the past, but I'm not going to pay even though it's a legal increase this year, I'm not paying that, because the last couple of years you basically held me hostage and. And so we got up from the table and left. What my wife was calling me about in the middle of the night is that once I left to go on tour, they sued me. They initiated a lawsuit so that they would be on the offensive and I'd be on the defensive. And they knew that there probably wouldn't be a chance for my case to be heard. Because I wasn't in the country, I didn't get notified. Not only did they sue me, but the government gave them a default decision and went into our bank account and emptied our bank account, giving it to them, and froze the account. So the message that I got in the middle of the night is, we're getting evicted from our apartment. Our bank account is frozen and empty. What do I do? Add that to everything else that's going on. I'm on the phone with lawyers trying to see if we can give them power of attorney to act on my behalf and all of this stuff. Currently, we are technically evicted from our apartment. What happens when that's the case is that you file an appeal, you pay 3 months rent to the court, they hold it in good faith, and then you file an appeal, and in that appeals process, that's when your case can be heard. And that case or that appeals process can take a year to 2 years. So, but another message that we got was, you have been evicted from your apartment. I mean, I'm traveling, I'm on the road, I'm not, all of this other stuff. A few days later, and so by the way, I get woken up in the middle of the night. And so I oversleep. I come out to the van 15 minutes late. And the tour manager is yelling at me for being late. It's my tour. I pay the bills. I pay everybody. I'm paying him. I'm explaining every step of the way. Look, we got deported. We got so-and-so. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. None of that stuff is registering with this guy. He's constantly on me that I'm not behaving right on my tour. I'm being bullied on my own tour. And and along with everything else that's going on, it's like, this guy being here is the reason that I'm not making money on this tour, that I'm away from my family and I'm not. And then again, I have that thought, am I supposed to be here or am I supposed to go home? My wife is a very strong, independent, incredible woman. She's from the Bronx. She's a therapist. If you listen to this podcast, you know how amazing she is. But it's like, at a certain point, we just need our family to be with us. All of our parents have passed away. There's nobody legally there's nobody whose job it is to take care of my family if everything falls apart. There are people that probably would step in and do whatever they could. But there's nobody whose responsibility it is. Do you understand? We're halfway around the world. We don't speak. It's like, this is not a good situation. And again, I'm having the feeling that's very rare for me. What's the right thing to do? Am I supposed to just go home? And now I got this tour manager bullying me with like aggressive energy. Like, this is a dude doing drugs with like a super energy. And I can't get a word in edgewise with this dude. And I'm telling him, you're not listening to me. You're not listening. And, a couple of days later, I get a phone call. there's been an earthquake in your neighborhood. In Turkey, earthquakes are a big deal. There were earthquakes that killed tens of thousands of people in a second. There was an earthquake in our neighborhood. This one was in our neighborhood. It's decided that my wife is going to take the girls and go inland and check into a hotel. And I keep telling her, babe, at any minute, if you just say, I need my husband, I am on the next flight. And she kept saying, okay, I'll tell you if it gets to that point. It's not. But even the feeling that that decision is on her, she shouldn't have to make that decision. Do you understand? The reason my life makes sense to me, no matter what highs and lows I go through, is because I have a very deep sense of what's right and wrong, especially for myself. I'm not saying I'm always right. It's just I feel it very strongly, and it's a clear feeling to me. I believe it's usually right. I usually stand behind the things that I say and do, but of course we're wrong sometimes. I've been wrong. I know that. But what was so difficult about this is like I genuinely cannot decide, is it the right thing for me to cancel this thing and go home? Because if I cancel this, none of these people that we work with, none of us are rich. I'm saying like this tour gets canceled for everybody. Everybody's month and a half of work gets canceled. DJ Ability's work gets canceled. This tour manager, even if he's a jerk to me, his work gets canceled. JB is a beautiful artist that was on a tour with us. His stuff gets canceled. My booking agent put all this work and fought for me. This is a woman who's going into maternity leave. She's pregnant, and this is a young Jewish woman who people are calling me anti-Semitic, and this young Jewish woman is on the phone fighting for me to get these shows and trying to get me as much money as she possibly can. She is fighting for me. She's telling these people he's not anti-Semitic, you're Islamophobic. We're going to sue you. You know what I mean? It's like, she doesn't get paid if these shows don't happen. Her team doesn't get paid. Her assistants don't get paid. And I know that she's all about empowering women. And it's not easy for women, especially if they're not in their 60s. Like for a younger woman to be in any industry, but especially in the music industry. And then, she's a young Jewish woman fighting for the right for me to just say what I'm saying. She's like, I don't agree with everything he's saying, but we have to fight for his right to say it. This is not and it came up in another conversation. She's like, Brother Ali is fights for human rights. He's a human rights advocate. Someone's like, he's an advocate for this and this and this, and Islamic this and Sharia law that and Hamas this and that. She said, no, forget all that. Brother Ali is a human rights advocate. For a young Jewish woman to say that, it means a lot. And she's making sacrifices in her community, in her industry to do that. So if I cancel the tour and go home and be with my wife and my daughter and just process the fact that, man, what's going on with my life? Like moving to Turkey was the thing that we did to start this new chapter of our life. And it's not going so good at this moment. It's, and then there's an earthquake. And I'm back in that situation again. I have a family member, and, some people might be able to put two and two together. I have a very dear family member who I've never talked about this publicly, but, it's a young adult who has very profound mental health challenges. And that young adult went missing. And that young adult is homeless, struggles with addiction. This is somebody who it's my job to care for. I just don't feel right saying it outright because this is a person, it's something that we discovered like later in their life, that this person is, I'll just leave it like that. But that person went missing, and they're already homeless, and they've all, walked away from our family home, walked away from job opportunities, educational opportunities, programs, homeless shelters, like just literally walks away from stuff. Doesn't want to do therapy and counseling, doesn't want to do medication. It's a deep, profound just challenge that we carry. A lot of people go through it, but it's a challenge that we carry. This young person in my life went missing during that time. Another young person in my life that I love very dearly was assaulted, was jumped, was tricked and lured into a place and jumped, put in the hospital, like very, very violent, very aggressive. And so I'm hearing that, and that there's video of it online, circulating online. These just kind of like other emotional things that are happening. On top of that, I got word that two people that I work with, have worked with. It's not atmosphere. But two people that have been very close to me in the past have decided that they're done with me. They don't talk to me. They don't want to deal with me anymore. We were okay before that, and that change came without me knowing why. Like, I heard it from other people, and I kind of tested, like, reaching out to them, and I realized that they weren't speaking to me, weren't responding to me. And I'm saying beautiful things, I'm sure they have their reasons, but it's really hard and especially when the shoe is on the other foot, and I was feeling a lot of like hard feelings and had tough questions and difficult conversations. I just went to them and was vulnerable about it. And when I was sad, I cried. When I was mad, I yelled. There were times where I went overboard and had to come back and apologize. But it's like, I care enough about this relationship to be vulnerable in this way. That like, if I don't like how you're being or what you're doing, I give you the opportunity to know that and to respond to it, to explain it, to address it, whatever you feel like you need to do. I've never gone from close to somebody to not dealing with somebody without them knowing why. And sometimes that's the hard part for them. It's like sometimes maybe I'm too intense in saying why. This like deep sense of justice and right and wrong, it needs to be balanced. And there's times where people probably experience me as being self-righteous or being on a moral high horse, where sometimes things are clear to me, they're not as clear to somebody else, and that causes tension between people. But these are people that I made the big changes in my life years ago, and they were cool with it. And then just recently, it seems that two of them aren't. And it hurts. It just hurts my feelings. It hurts and it sucks. They're like, I knew I wasn't on the greatest terms with these folks, but it's like, I'm in a place where I believe that everyone's intentions have been good. And I think it's possible for us to disagree about how we should be together and still hold each other in good opinions. That like, what I loved about you is still who you are. I just, at some point there was like something in the dynamic that didn't feel healthy, doable, sustainable to me. And so because of that, and because I love you, I just didn't love the situation. I came and talked to you about, can we change the situation? And here are things about you that are challenging for me. And this is how I feel about it. And, so just while I was on that tour, just another element was that. So literally every day I'm almost in tears, and literally every day I'm almost canceling the show. Now, the flip side of that is that was an extremely blessed tour. It was so beautiful. And I just want to say, man, you guys heard the conversation, if you listen to the podcast, between me and DJ Abilities. And like, we have never been super close, but he was such a positive source of beauty for me on that tour. I mean, just every day he would get up and just, morning, brother, 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 brother. Because, I got my song Star Quality, brother, 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 how you make them get down from Professor X from X Clan. And he was scratching that in. We were doing that song and he was scratching it in. Brother, brother, brother. So he would say, brother, 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 just to be funny. He was making me laugh. He came out of his hotel room every day with the most warm, beautiful, bright energy. He gave me a big hug. He would thank me for just, he kind of knew some of what I was going through. Not everybody can relate to the stuff I'm going through because if you've never moved to another country or something like that, or you just have never had to worry about being deported or being treated like an immigrant or whatever, if the immigrant experience is not one that's in your thing, it's like, I understand not everybody's going to understand. And, maybe on some level, people are judging me like, hey, man, that's your fault for doing all this extra weird stuff. I don't know. But he was so beautiful to me and with me. And it was so dope performing on stage with him. And then almost every single day of that tour, something incredibly beautiful happened in the crowd. The audiences weren't big, but they were amazing. And I just have to, man, it's going to make me cry. Ability said to me something so beautiful on that tour. He said, man, because, sometimes I'm hard on myself performing. He said, man, the main thing you need to remember, dude, this is so beautiful for somebody to say this to you. He said, man, just remember everyone's in this room because they love you. Everyone here loves you. I don't think I'll ever be on stage the same. I don't know why did it take him saying that to me after all these years? And the truth is we love each other. I love y'all. I really the people that listen to my music, come to my shows. I love you. You changed my life. You know what I'm saying? I am who I am because you're part of my dream. And it's the weirdest dream in the world, but y'all are part of it and you support it. And there's levels and there's different ways of engagement or whatever. Man, the people that are part of the caravan, you know what I'm saying? I love those people. And I have not been checking in with them. You know what I'm saying? As a community of people, and I haven't been present there because I just can't. You know what I'm saying? It's I don't want to just get up on there and be like, yo, I'm crying myself to sleep every night. And I'm waking up every day thinking, am I doing the wrong thing by being here? You know what I'm saying? Because also leaving is bad. There's no good options. Sometimes in life, there's no good option. And one of the things I came away from this thing with, and I hold this for myself and people that I disagree with, a lot of times people see the outward decision you made, but they don't know what your options were. Sometimes there's not a good option. And a lot of times, especially being in a leadership position, a lot of times you're just choosing between a bunch of messed up ass options. Because if I leave this tour, I'm doing a lot of people dirty that really came out for me. And it's also their dream. Also, they're doing their dream. My booking agent is doing her dream. Abilities is doing his dream. This tour manager, God bless him, he was really mean to me. And he was mean to me in a time when I really didn't need that. But deep down, that's for his own reasons. That ain't got nothing to do with me. He wasn't doing that to me. That's just how he is. And me and him didn't line up. But I will tell you that him being the tour manager for that thing made it profoundly worse. It made a really bad situation worse when I was spending all this money to try to make it better. It's one of the most difficult tours I've ever been on. But all this beautiful stuff. You know what I mean? But then I'm out here keeping my word to all these people. But it's what about your wife, man? What about your daughters? How does your 16-year-old feel now? The country she lives in every day kicked her out and was going to put her through all this inhumane stuff. How does she feel? And I think she's always felt safe with me as her dad. One of the things that the ladies in my life know is I will show up and be in danger for you if I need to. Like there's been times where like, man, from the time she was really little, one time me and my wife were going to go to the gym. My stomach was messed up. I was like, I'm not going. She went, took my daughter and put my daughter in the lay of like a daycare situation in the gym. She comes back and an older kid was just screaming in her face and she was crying and the worker wasn't doing anything about it. My wife called me and told me this on the way home. I said, I'll be standing outside when you get back. We went back there and I let everybody have it. You do not treat people's children like this. I know this is just a job to you, but you do not treat people's children like this. You know what I'm saying? So then after that, we go to pick up my son, and my daughter says to my son, yo, today people were mean to me at the thing, and mommy picked up daddy, and daddy came up there and yelled at everybody. You know what I mean? Teachers have said a lot of Islamophobic and racist things to my kids that may be considered microaggressions, but they know. I come home, tell my dad, my dad's up there the next day with a suit on. And everybody's nervous with my dad there. You know what I mean? She had a weird experience with the neighbors. A neighbor tried to lure her into their house. And my wife called and said, hey, I think she wants you to just be here. I went home. You know, like I will go home. If I'm needed, I will go home. But it's like, man, in that moment, I couldn't do a damn thing for my daughter. The best that I could end up doing is begging to get deported with her, and they finally did it. And so there's just not a good option, you know. But there's so many beautiful things happening on the tour. I mean, Ant and his wife came out to one of the shows. And, that means the world to me. There's an imam named Imam Pleeman El-Amin in Atlanta. He's a legend in our community. I mean, I could talk and talk. But when I was like 18, 19 was the first time I ever went to a Muslim country. Our community had a delegation of young college students that went to visit Malaysia. And I wasn't in college, didn't graduate from high school, but I was an imam in the community. I wrote for the newspaper. And he was one of the people that said, yeah, Ali's going to come with us. And, man, yeah, these things are so touching to me. I'm sitting backstage, and he has a very distinctive voice. He's got a very, very deep voice. I haven't talked to Imam Pleeman El-Amin in years. It's probably been 10 years. I'm in Atlanta, wasn't even thinking about it, you know. Sitting backstage, and I hear, I'm here to see Brother Ali. I'd recognize his voice immediately. And then he comes into the room saying the words, Brother Ali, you recognize this voice? Because he knows I can't see, but he knows I know voices. And I stood up, and I'm in tears telling the story. I was almost in tears. I said, man, I feel like I'm going to cry. And he came out, man, I just wanted to see you, man. I know you're out here doing your thing. I heard you were going to be in town. I wanted to see your master at work. And like, this is somebody I look up to profoundly to say that. And I mean, you know, he's not a young man. He's probably in his 70s. Maybe, I don't know how old he is. But he and his wife came out elegant, looking cool, you know, came out. He didn't hang around backstage. He came backstage, greeted us, gave him a big hug. He said, I'm going to be out there watching you do your thing, nephew. So he goes out. After the show, he came back really quickly, you a master, brother. I came to see a master, and that's what I got. Do you know what that means to me? But somebody like, man, I got dad issues. You know what I mean? My father ended his own life. So did his. You know what I mean? Like, I want a dad. Like, so for an older man that I respect profoundly to say something like that to me, it means a lot to me. Man, there's one of the days we're at one of the shows in Florida. It's like somebody came out every day. My dear friend Shane Atkinson came out in North Carolina and brought his sons. You know what I mean? My brother Monty, you know what I'm saying, Native American brother who just said his Shahada. You know, Monty said his Shahada on the day of the night of power in the month of Ramadan, and then prayed for my residency situation to be fulfilled, and it got fulfilled the exact way we prayed for. You don't have to believe it, but I believe his prayer was part of why me and my daughter got to go home. Monty came. I've known Monty for a few years now. Monty came out. Imam Shane came out. He brought his sons. You know what I mean? And he gifted me with one of the greatest gifts I've ever received in my life. Imam Shane, Chaplain Shane, makes prayer beads by hand. And he gave me the most beautiful set of prayer beads I've ever had. And that means a lot to me. That's something that's with me every single day. You know? And he made them with his blessed hands. And like, this is me, and this guy means something to me that nobody else does. It's like he has a place that's like, he's the only guy in that place in my life. You know, really beautiful. That was just one of the days. That's just one of the days on tour. You know what I mean? Every single day. We got to Houston. I saw my man Kenya Evans, who I love profoundly. One of the very few people that really understands my music. Kenya Evans came, paid to come to the VIP. Like, we text each other all the time. Like, man, you have to pay to come to no VIP. Oh, brother, I just want to support you, man. He's a dude that's like, he's one of the guys that like loves A$AP Rock and Doom and Rakim and is the exact same type of Muslim as me and Yasin Bey and others. So it's like, he knows my music. There's like 5 people that really can understand my music completely from every single angle imaginable. Kenya Evans is one of them. Aida Rashid is another one. There's not a lot of them. But they're from the same community. They're from the same spiritual thing. They know the hip hop lineage. They understand. Amir Suleiman is another one. You know what I'm saying? There's just like a small handful of people that like, if they say my music is dope, they get it on a level nobody else does. So yeah, he came out in Houston. Preacher Moss came in Houston. I was telling Preacher Moss everything I was going through. And I said, yeah, man, it's like, you know, da-da-da-da, and the money thing and blah, 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 blah. He reached in his pocket. He said, you need some money? He was serious. You need some money? He was about to just pull out cash and be like, here, don't even trip. He meant that. And that's my elder. Not by a whole generation. Maybe Preach might be 10, 15 years older than me, but he's my elder. You know, Sheikh Khalis Rashad, one of my spiritual teachers, one of my dear friends came out. You know, Houston, that was great. But man, we're in Florida, okay? We're doing our set. Me and Ability's on stage. It's a beautiful night. And there's someone that I'm looking at as like a Muslim elder on the side of the stage, black Muslim elder, vibing out to everything. There's one remix that Abilities brought to the table that not everybody appreciated. The crowd didn't appreciate the way we got it. It's like we're doing Good Lord, and on the verse for Good Lord, Abilities would, in real time, live, remix it and go to this beat flip of Soul to Soul. However do you want me? However do you need me? Oh, however do you want me? And it was ill, super dope. But the crowd never responded like us. Most of the people in the crowd are culturally a little different from us. Like those of the artists in our generation, for us, the formative years were a few years before our listeners. We're like 5, 10 years older than our listeners, and our formative years in hip hop were like 10 plus years before theirs. We kind of represent their formative years. So it's like we just have a different relationship with it. So anyway, this thing would come in every night, and me and Max did it because we love it. It's like, oh, no, we love this. It's dope, and we're keeping it. So that one particular night, this Muslim elder brother just is going hard. Like, he's like, yo. And me and Max got off stage. Me and Abilities got off stage. He was like, yo, the elder Muslim homie was feeling it. I said, yeah, man, that was ill. So we're sitting backstage, and then the security guy comes back, and he said, he gives me a name. So-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so would like to see you. I don't recognize this name, but I'm like, it's got to be the Muslim elder brother. He comes backstage. He's not an elder. We're the same age. It's just that he's been suffering from a debilitating disease that just made him from a distance appear older than he is. But this is my man, my brother Jabbar. Me and Brother Jabbar converted around the same time in North Minneapolis, and we were very close friends for about 7, 8 years around the time we first converted. And he's just calling me Brother Imam because that's who I was at that time. I was an imam in that community. This is before I was an MC as a profession. I was the imam. He's like, yo, brother, man, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? You remember we went to Detroit and we did this? And remember we did da. And it's so wild meeting people like that, because that's a time in my life that was a real, like, I got all these lives that I've lived, that it's like a moment in my life that's like, that was amazing, and nobody would even believe it. Like, there's no footage, there's no cell phones, there's not really even many photos from that time. And sometimes I have those memories and I'm like, man, did that really happen the way I thought it did? And then somebody comes along and you start sharing stories, and it's, yes, that happened. My man Jabbar, we cried together, man. We cried together. And we had started the tour in Arizona. I went to Trill. There's a store in Phoenix called Trill. You should go there. They got all this old school hip hop stuff, boom boxes, gazelle glasses, but they had Kango bucket hats. I bought this fly purple Kango bucket hat, lilac purple. And Jabbar said, man, that hat is fly. I said, here, man, you gotta keep it. And he put it on. He looked great on it. It looked great. It was too big for him, though. I got a big old head. But, man, so many profoundly beautiful experiences. But I'll tell you a crazy experience, though. Oh, and then I'm bonding with JB on that tour. So I know that JB is a real community guy. He's a beautifully talented MC. There's nothing better, man. DJ Abilities was like, man, there's nothing better than a black brother from the hood who's weird. Like, they make the best MCs. And it's like, yeah, man, think about it. Doom, Mos Def, you know what I'm saying? Ghostface. You know, the list goes on and on. Musab is like that. Vast Air, Nas, you know what I'm saying? Like, these guys from the hood. And they're legitimately from the hood, but they're like profoundly bright, you know, and they're kind of weird. It's like they're comic book nerds or something like that. They're nerdy, or like, you know, there's something, they're just into stuff that you don't think of as typically being this way. And JB is like that, you know what I mean? And so I knew that JB really respects us. I knew that JB was really into underground independent white dude rap music. Like, he just is really into it. He thinks it's dope. He sees the dopeness in it. So to him, A$AP Rock is amazing. You know what I mean? And A$AP Rock is amazing. But not everybody from that world would necessarily see it that way, or even really be up on our music like that. So anyway, I'm really glad for this. But the first night of the tour, we're doing a group interview, and they asked me, who's your top 5? And so I give them my top 5. They ask Abilities, who's your top 5 DJ producers? He gives them his. JB says, I don't got 5, I got 3. Tupac, Nas, and Brother Ali. I said, oh, man, I didn't know it was like that. You got to know that. If you don't know something like that, it's like, okay. Because I'm just treating this guy like a peer and an equal, because in my mind, that's what we are. But it's good to know something like that. So me and JB are bonding. This brother is so hilarious and beautiful, you know. So that was beautiful. I'll say another extremely beautiful thing that happened on tour. I know I'm going to save that one for last. But, man, so one of the difficult things is we're in Dallas. Dope show. All the shows were dope. There wasn't a big crowd in the whole thing, but all the shows were great. The crowds were amazing. And I'm so happy Ability said, man, these people are here because they love you, dude. I said, okay. But one of the last shows of the tour, we're on stage, Dallas, and I get to the part where I say, free Palestine from the river to the sea. Suddenly I notice that I'm being showered in liquid. And I'm kind of thinking that this is alcohol, probably. We finish the song, and it's weird, and the whole crowd's looking around, and there's a commotion in the crowd. So we finish the song, and I'm like, what just happened? And they say, somebody threw a full beer at you. I don't know if it was a bottle or a can. But somebody was waiting for that moment. They threw their bottle or their can, and they ducked down low and ran out. And JB and his cousin was there, and JB had a bunch of family there because Texas isn't far from where they're from Oklahoma City. And so they ran up on stage like, yo, what's good? And it's like, no, the person that did it left. You know, what's amazing is that, so they threw a bottle or can at me, and it drenched me in alcohol. So now I can't pray. I can't make my daily prayers in those clothes. Anyone that's seen me in public in the last few years, you probably see me. I was trying to get to a point where I had one outfit that I wear every day in public. It was that like will work for all situations. Moving to another country made me a minimalist, man, and I'm so grateful. I don't want to own stuff. Almost nothing. But I had like this, my dear brother Jamali, who I also saw on that tour. Jamali came to the Milwaukee show. You know, Jamali's somebody I love beyond words. And yeah, his beloved father just passed away. Which is a whole other story. But man, me and my wife had a community project in Minneapolis called the Jamali Project. That was our like Muslim community thing that we did together. It's named after this brother Jamali from Southside Chicago. So anyway, Jamali gave me this Gore-Tex. It's thin, but it was made of Gore-Tex, like olive green raincoat. And you know, for the Muslims, like, man, Muslim men want to be covered, especially to the knees. And I got some pants that looked like that matched it. And that was my outfit. So if you saw me in the last few years, including videos and everything else, that's usually what I had on. But somebody soaked it. And so like now I can't pray in those clothes. Like I have to wash them before I can pray in them. But I turn around and look at Abilities. They actually missed me with the bottle and hit DJ Abilities, who people don't know. It's not part of his public story, but he's Jewish. So like if you think that was some anti-Semitic stuff or whatever, like the person like actually hit the Jewish DJ that I'm on stage with, one of many Jewish partners that I've collaborated with and love deeply. Unjust, me and Unjust made the Love and Service album together. We did the song called The Collapse that's about the apartheid, the genocide, the forced famine, the war crimes, the colonial state. Like that's what that's about. My man Jake One, you know what I mean? And now DJ Ability is like, this is one of many Jewish collaborators that's on stage performing this song for you. And again, like, do these people believe in everything I'm saying? No. But they believe in me and my right to say them and the intention with which they're being said and the fact that they should be heard and considered. So that happened. Another one of the very, very beautiful things that happened is that my dear, dear friend Merce, who was not the first person to take me on tour, but he was the second one. So Slug took me on tour, me and BK on tour first, and Merce was on that tour. So Merce was on my first tour. Then Merce did his first headlining tour later, early 2003, spring 2003, because the end of the beginning, which was his first Def Jux album, had just dropped. He did his first headlining tour, and me and BK were the support. So that was the first tour where I actually got paid and where I actually had my own hotel room, and I was like an official part of the tour. When I did the God Loves Ugly tour with Atmosphere, they weren't planning to have me on that tour. It was a full bill. It was Atmosphere, Mr. Dibbs, Merce, and Blueprint. There was no need for me to be on that tour. But I made Shadows on the Sun, and they were like, yo, this guy needs to be on tour. He needs to be on tour. So I did. They added us, but we played for almost nothing. But it was a great opportunity, and it launched our career. So I'm eternally grateful, and I learned so much, and me and Slug really bonded on that tour, bonded with everybody on the tour, and learned how to tour. It was one of the most valuable experiences of my life. So, but then Merce took us on tour, and he's like, yo, you're the official support. You and Brendan have your own hotel room. We're paying you. Plus Shadows on the Sun had come out. I came home from that tour and moved out of the hood, literally, the day I got home. It was like that scene in Goodfellas where dude comes home and he's like, start looking for a house. We're moving out. I came home from the tour. It's like, all right, we're going to buy a Honda Accord. Clean. Nice. We moved from North Minneapolis to Edina, had white carpet wall to wall, had a swimming pool, had this big walk-in closet that I used as you know what I mean? We went from being dead broke in the hood to living in the suburbs with plush white carpet and could go out to eat. And like, that was like a almost overnight thing. So now Merce is on his last album and his last tour. And some of the shows on my tour, they were struggling to get him booked there. Because, I mean, these markets are rough for all of us. So he was like, man, I'd love to come on part of that tour with you. So Merce came out for like a week of the tour, and we were roommates. We died laughing one night because I'm like, yo, we've been doing this 20 years. Here we are 23 years after we did a tour together. We are in the exact same place. We're roommates. We're sharing hotel rooms. Are you going to shower first or am I going to shower? You want me to go down to the lobby to do number 2 so that I don't stink up the hotel room? Like, we're right back there. I said, man, we have gone nowhere in 20 years. We're right back where we started. Man, we laughed so hard. I said, man, we're out here selling black shirts to white people. What's going on? We just laughed so hard. But man, having Merce be there for that period of the tour meant so much to me. Like, him being there, he changed the whole feeling of the tour. And of course, Merce can be friends with anybody, and he was friendly with the tour manager. I told him the challenges we were having, and he came in on some, like, you know. And then also he shifted the vibe of the tour, you know, because it's Max and the tour manager, Abilities and the tour manager, who are white, and then JB, who's black, and me. And culturally, I'm raised in the black world culturally, but I'm not black. So I can't really sway the demographics like that. But when Merce came, now there's 2 black people, 2 white people, and me. And I'm leaning black. So just the whole vibe of everything changed. You know what I mean? And I loved it. And it seemed to, you know, it just made it really good. And so being with Merce for that time period, you know, and so I came back from I finished the tour. We did 2 shows at the end of the tour. One was in Milwaukee, and that was sold out. That was a beautiful show. Beautiful show. Ability's son came. Some of my friends from Chicago came. And I have a friend who is a leader in the Muslim community, and he has a daughter who is profoundly gifted. She's always been like that. But she was like well known in our community for being a speaker and a poet and an artist, and, you know. But like a lot of our youth go through periods where they're like, I don't feel like I can be myself. I need to, you know, step away and go do her thing. And she did. And I know she's been, you know, I could just had this feeling that like it might be a little tense, you know. But she came to the show. And we hung out afterwards. And I, you know, I've known her since she was like 12 or something. And I just love her to pieces. And she's like a niece to me. And I was able to just really be with her and spend time with her and, you know, encourage her and also just remind her of the things that she's doing that like, man, this, you know, this thing you're doing really reminds me of your dad. Like so much of this greatness that you have is from your parents and it's from your experience. And she's like, you know, it's not like I'm not Muslim anymore. I'm like, you know, niecey. Ain't nothing like have a niece, you know what I mean? There's something really beautiful about that thing when it's just, you can have this kind of like loving elder kind of relationship. It's dope. I love safe relationships with women. You know, it's mostly just my wife and my daughters. But it's something that really matters to me. And I really, you know, the more practicing we become, the more orthodox we become. It's like I don't really have female friends like that. You know, the standard Muslim practice is we don't shake hands, we don't hug, you know, people from the other gender. But it doesn't mean that we're not warm with them, and it doesn't mean that we're not, you know, it's like, but that type of thing is really nice. And so anyway, that was beautiful. And my brother Mansoor Panawala that I've shouted out on this podcast, he came, he brought his wife, he brought his daughter. I hadn't seen his daughter in a minute. Really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then Jamali and his wife Sadia came, and man, that was dope. And then the next day we played Minneapolis. And the Minneapolis show was great. So it ended strong, but like I said, the thing that was hardest about that tour was that I couldn't decide what the right thing to do was. And that's very rare for me. And I thought that at the end of the tour, I would have this like deep sense of relief that like, all right, I'm done and I did the right thing. And the end of the tour came and I didn't have that feeling. I just felt beat up, and I just felt like I had lost a fight. Like I felt like the world had had its way with me. And, you know, I came home and I walked through the door and I just was crying like, man, I'm so sorry. We went through this deportation, an eviction. Our bank account is frozen. They took all the money out of our bank account. We don't have a bank account in Turkey at this point. An earthquake. We got one young family member missing. We got one of them got beat up. You know, I got you know, people in my life that struggle with addictions that are relapsing, and like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just so sorry I wasn't here for y'all. You know. And then my wife was just like, we're just happy you're home. And my wife said, you know, I never question why you're doing what you're doing. She's like, you know, one of my Muslim teachers, I was blessed to be sitting in his house one day, and his wife said to me, you know, I know he's your sheikh and I know he's your teacher. I could have divorced him 100 times. And he was there and he said, yeah, and she had the right to. I said, so why didn't you? And she said, whatever he's doing, even if it hurts my feelings or makes me mad or I think it's wrong, I don't think it's wise or smart. He's doing it because he thinks that's what Allah wants him to do. And you can't really be too mad at somebody like that. You know, and my wife just said, she said to me, like, you're like that too. And I try to be like that. It's not that I think I'm always right. But when I'm doing something, it's because I think it's right. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You can hear the adhan is being called. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to pause for the adhan and I'll be right back with just a few finishing thoughts. Alhamdulillah. I just wanted to pause for the adhan. Usually we're quiet or repeating the adhan when they call the adhan. But man, you know, forgive me for telling this kind of rough story. I didn't want, and I just couldn't even imagine coming and telling it while it was going on. You know, things do seem to have, some of these things have settled down a little bit. Other ones have other developments that are crazy. But, you know, my birthday came along and my wife was like, oh, I was going to go get you something. I said, you know what? I literally do not need anything. I feel so thoroughly and deeply and resoundingly content with my life, because the things that matter to me the most, you know, that experience, being away from my family and not being sure of what I should do, that was really difficult. And it's why I couldn't turn the mic on and come talk to you all, because, you know, the whole thing here is that I'm extremely open with the people that listen to me. But I didn't want to come and just be in that sense of, I didn't just want to have that sense of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to go home or not, you know, because I also never want you to feel anything other than the gratitude that I have for you. I don't want it to feel like me being on tour is the problem. It's not. It's just that, you know, life works out that way sometimes. And you know, so when my birthday came along and my wife was like, oh, I want to go get you something. It's like everything that matters the most to me. I am so grateful to be Muslim. You know, when you have a spiritual tradition to filter these things through and it gives meaning to all of them. It makes the things that happen in life, you know, one of the greatest spiritual masters ever, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, Allah be well pleased with him. He said that sometimes God gives us these deeply unsettling situations in our lives to just ensure, to give us the gift that our hearts will never be settled. Our hearts should never be settled with the material world. You know, you've heard me say it. If you listen to the podcast, I'm going to say it again and again and again. But the Muslims and almost all of the people of any type of spirituality believe that we were somewhere before we came into space and time and into these bodies. And we have a soul. And our soul, like our internal self, is our soul. It is our spiritual heart. It's our intellect, and it's our ego. And all these things are in battle with each other. They each have their own role. They each play their own role, but they're in battle with each other. And that's the human condition. It's a deep, deep struggle. The place that we were at before this was beautiful. It was divine witnessing. We were witnessing God, all of us together. And there wasn't depravity. There wasn't deception. There weren't lies, and there wasn't gaslighting, and it wasn't all of this stuff. It was all divine witnessing, and it was beautiful. There was no injustice, which is why when we experience that in this world, we're so incensed by it, that we know that that's not right, But we're in this part of life with the ability to make our own decisions, straddled with the human condition, to see who am I, if left to my own devices in a world that's distracting and challenging and difficult. And so the human beings are sleeping, the Prophet Muhammad says, and when they die, they wake up. So it's best to die before you die, meaning that we wake up when we realize that yes, this material reality is real. We've got responsibility. We got to be accountable for it. We've got to take care of it. We got to show up for it. But this isn't our ultimate reality. Our ultimate reality is not material. And so the challenges in the material world show me who I am. And so after I'm done with this material world, which we all know we're going to be, we're dying. We're all on a path that leads to the graveyard. But for us, the graveyard is not the end, because the material world and material life is not the end all be all. We're here to show who we are. And ultimately, our heart's contentment is only in what's permanent. And the only permanence is the Creator. The Creator is permanent. The creation is temporal. But the Creator is permanent. And so the thing that makes us virtuous people, the thing that makes us people of meaning, is that meaning is above material. And so if our hearts ever get completely satisfied in the material world, that's a problem, because we want material things to be in our hands, but not in our heart. Because the meaning, the world is in the mess it's in, because the form is in people's heart and not the meaning. So it's like, as long as I get to the money, I don't care how many people suffer. And it's almost like, well, I win. If I get all the material stuff and somebody else suffers, I win. You know what I mean? And for those of us that don't believe in that, it's like, yeah, we're the strangers. Glad tidings to the strangers, the Prophet Muhammad said. Glad tidings to the strangers, because we're the people that's like, no, having all the material things and destroying myself and others to get it is not a win. I'd rather not have it. It doesn't mean that I have to not have it, but the things that I have are not in my heart. They're only in my hand. And so I got to use them. I'm grateful for them. When there are great tools in my hand, that's wonderful. But, Dr. Cornelius West, I believe it was him. He's the one that said that, shared this insight with me, or this language with me. But he said, we're supposed to use things and love people. Love people and use things. That, people are not means to be used. He said this is a backward society because we love things and use people. We use people to get things. We're supposed to use our things to serve our people. And so anytime some discomfort comes, and the greater the discomfort is, it's like, this is not where my heart is supposed to be at rest. my heart is at rest when I'm communing with, remembering, obeying, in submission to, in harmony with the divine. That's who I am at my core. And so when these things come along in life, it's a profound blessing to be able to have this thing to say, like, it makes the meaning more meaningful. Not that we fetishize struggle. We don't seek it out. We hope not to create it for ourselves. We do not pray for it. We don't ask Allah for challenges, but we know that that's part of this realm. And so when they come, we are grateful for them. And even in the midst of it all, it's like, this is what Allah is writing for me. I'm content with whatever Allah writes for me. But like, I'm deeply happy with my family. I am deeply, and that the biggest headaches that I have are me trying to hold on to the life I have. And I'm also deeply happy with my community. Like, I love my community. And so the heartache that I have is people that I've lost along the way. And I want to get back with them. You know, I want to get back with them. We saw our situation differently. But like, I don't unlove anybody. And there are some people that I've chosen to not continue our communication because it's like the relationship isn't healthy. Even if I love the person, it's like, even though I love the person, this relationship, this communication isn't healthy. You know what I mean? And I've ended relationships, and I do not like it. That's not why I put all that time into that relationship. But sometimes the relationship is unhealthy and we're not aligned on what's the purpose of this relationship. You know what I mean? And sometimes a relationship can actually go against the purpose. It can be like, what's happening is completely opposite from what I intended with this thing. But even with the people that I'm not in communication with anymore, the sadness is I didn't want it to be like this. I wanted to hold on to what I have. I wanted to hold on to the people, and I don't hate the people. I don't hate anybody. You know? Not anybody that's been in my life. All the people that I loved, I still love them. I will always love them. And I hold in my heart that it's just that the situation got off track and the way we see it, because it's hard to be a human being. It's hard to be a person. But I deeply love those people. And sometimes, even though I know they don't talk to me, I still text them and just say, hey, love you always. And it's true. I do. You know. So my apologies for not doing the podcast. And I'm also really very happy with my creative thing. You know, there's also been some things that have happened really beautiful since then. And I don't think I'm going to talk about them because, if we're rocking with the podcast again, it might take a minute to get back in the habit and routine of doing a podcast. It's a lot of work doing a podcast, especially weekly, especially if you have guests and video content. It is a lot of work just scheduling those guests, preparing for the conversation, having the conversation, editing it, posting it, creating the artwork and the reels and the blah, 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 blah. It is a lot of work doing a podcast. So if we're committing to that, we're getting back on that page again. I got to leave some of the stories and developments for later, but I just want to apologize for being gone and say thank you. And thank you to everybody that reached out. And then some didn't, but everybody that reached out and just like, yo, are you good? Are you okay? Like, the podcast's been on hiatus for a long time. So I had one of the most challenging years of my life, one of the most challenging periods of my life. The surgery, the deportation, the earthquake, the eviction, the stuff with some of the people and, a lot. And then being gone during that time and being on a very difficult tour that wasn't making money. And that tour manager was very difficult for me as well. But also so much beauty. And honestly, I love performing and I love making music. I'll talk to you more about that later, but I had a development lately that's just like a whole new thing that just got me wide open and in love with making music again. So more to come. I love you all deeply and profoundly beyond words. And inshallah, we will see you next week on the Tavelers Podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.